Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Sri Brhad Bhagavatamrita, Volume 2, Chapter 4. Today is text 232. We'll do a few texts. We'll do a few texts that will bring us to the end of this phase of Narada Muni's discussion with Gopakumar. Right after this, last verse of this phase, Narada Muni is going to start telling Gopakumar about Ayodhya. And that will be where we'll be beginning when we resume our classes on a regular basis. We'll be taking a short visit to Ayodhya. Then Gopakumar will get the strong encouragement from Lord Ramachandra to move on, where he'll go to Dwarka and associate with the Yadus. And there in Dwarka, there's a lot of discussion which are specifically going to be revealing more than Narada has revealed up until now, because he will be joined with Uddhava, who will both be speaking to Gopakumar about that very special place, very special relationships, and very special moods of the devotees who inhabit that place. And they're going to, again, make Gopakumar more qualified, in a way somewhat testing him for his debut in Goloka, where he will be received by none other than Madan Gopal in his eternal form and the eternally waiting for his eternal service and his eternal form as Sarupa, and as Madan Gopal will greet him in a very appropriate way, which will be just suitable to Gopakumar's aspirations, perfectly designed, as all other abodes are perfectly designed for the aspirations of the residents of those abodes. In the same way, Madan Gopal, his reciprocation with Gopakumar will be perfectly displayed according to his desire. So these last three verses are specifically speaking about the power of prema bhakti. Yesterday we read some verses, again repeating how the symptoms of Mahabhava can be misunderstood by those who are inadequately prepared to understand it. And because of that, Krishna has very kindly hidden this prema bhakti to those who are still not yet ready to have that prema bhakti revealed to them. We gave a simple analogy yesterday to just like a very caring mother understanding that the child is hankering for sweets, but still the child is not sufficiently well enough to eat sweets. So the mother hides them in a place where the child can't get them right yet, knowing that when the child is sufficiently healthy, the sweets are waiting for him. So in the same way, Krishna, he hides prema bhakti, and as we talked about yesterday, and we'll also speak about today also, as I mentioned yesterday, we will speak about Shukadeva Goswami, who for various reasons also hid his ecstatic emotions, and we'll read that section that we spoke about of this reasoning for hiding it by explaining in the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam his final instructions to Parikshit Maharaj. You would think the final instructions to Parikshit Maharaj would end with the highest ecstasy and conclusion. But Shukadeva Goswami had his reasons for speaking his last instructions to Maharaj Parikshit. And he spoke about Gyan. He spoke about becoming liberated from bodily identification. And he did this for two reasons: to hide it, to bewilder those who are of that category we already spoke about, who are not yet ready, because they'll see it, they won't be able to understand it, and because the Lord being compassionate and the Vaishnavas being compassionate to them, they'll not want to make them think that this is something that's not going to give them happiness. When they see the very person who's speaking crying, seeing the very person who's speaking manifesting symptoms of externally appearing to be very unhappy, and he's supposed to speak in a convincing way to an audience unprepared to recognize these symptoms, and they're going to think like Ramachandra Puri did when Madhavendra Puri manifested his symptoms. They're going to think, I'm not really interested. I want to hear and see somebody who's always happy. And therefore they may mistakenly think, foolishly think, as Sanatana Goswami said, they may foolishly think that better I go and hear from somebody who's going to talk about the bliss of liberation, or maybe even talk about the happiness of going to the heavenly planets where at least I can enjoy, and at least for some lengthy period of time. And therefore, that's what specifically Sanatana Goswami is brought to light in what we read yesterday, of why bhakti is sometimes hidden. And although we quoted the verses, when Narada Muni specifically quoted the verse, giving others' opinion, which is that the Lord, He does not give bhakti so easily because He doesn't want to give up His independence. In that verse where He spoke to Parikshit Maharaj, I can see He's your king, He's your guru, your God, He's the head of your family. He sees all of these relationships that exist, but at the same time I can see he's become your servant. I believe it was actually not Parikshit, maybe to Yudhishthira Maharaj, because Krishna became the servant to Yudhishthira Maharaj because he became his messenger. And he carried the message on behalf of Yudhishthira Maharaj. So, in that sense, he was an order carrier to Yudhishthira Maharaj, which means he became subservient to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and therefore the statement was specifically made that I can see that you have bhakti, and bhakti he doesn't give so easily, although he may give liberation even easier than bhakti, because when he gives somebody bhakti, he has to give himself, which means he has to give up his independence. And Sanatana Goswami made it clear that Narada Muni said afterwards he had a different opinion based on his own observations. His different opinion is that Krishna doesn't feel inconvenienced, and his devotees don't feel inconvenienced in any way. When Krishna doesn't feel inconvenienced by giving up his independence, and the devotees don't feel inconvenienced in any way. And not only that, everyone's bliss is increased. Why? Because the devotees who relish this mood, Bhakta Vatsalya, their ecstasies heighten even more and more. So it becomes even more auspicious. Krishna's ecstasies increase, his devotees' ecstasies increase, and those who hear about these wonderful, how wonderful Krishna is, the most loving master or the most loving servant. You can't find someone more loving than Krishna. And we even spoke about when Krishna sees his devotees in distress, he can't tolerate seeing that. Of course, when he sees his devotees in distress, the distress of separation, the distress of pain, and which came to mind yesterday, but I didn't have time to speak about it, but it reminded me of one pastime we spoke of previously, which was when Krishna saw the Kaliya serpent in the lake. And when he saw the Kaliya serpent in the lake, he decided that he was going to deal with him. So he jumped into the lake in order to deal with the Kaliya serpent. And when he jumped into the lake with Kaliya, then a fight ensued, and then gradually what happened is Kaliya wrapped Krishna in his coils, and Krishna appeared to be in a very precarious situation. And word got out. Krishna's friends, this is all described later in Brhad Bhagavatamrita. I'm only going to give a small summary of it, but the essence of it is that word got out of where Krishna was and who he was with and the condition that he was in. And, sorry. I don't know how to turn this off. I don't use this phone for anything except for keeping time and for internet. There it is, okay. So all his cowherd boyfriends came to that place, and when they saw Krishna, they fainted. And even when the birds were flying overhead, when they saw, they precipitously fell into the lake. They fell in the water. The trees, when the trees nearby the lake, when they saw Krishna, the trees were drying up. And then one man went to tell all the residents of Vrindavan, of Brhad, about elderly man. He went there to tell them, but they had already anticipated that some inauspicious signs were appearing, and Balaram also was anticipating some inauspicious signs were taking place. And when this elderly man came and reported what's happening with Krishna, then Mother Jasoda, Nanda Maharaj, all the gopis, they all ran to where Krishna was wrapped in the coils of the Kaliya serpent, and they fainted. Mother Jasoda, she fell on the ground and a total lost her consciousness. She was feeling such intense pain. They weren't thinking that, that Krishna's obviously going to defeat him like he defeats all the other demons. They don't think that way. They don't think that way. They're thinking that Krishna's in danger and anticipating potentially the separation of Krishna if he's defeated by Kaliya. They're about ready to give up their lives. And Balaram also was experiencing that same pain. And then Balaram, he had to speak out to Krishna and remind him. He said, I can't tell these people. These people here are not your associates of Vaikuntha. They're not monkeys in the forest. They're not the Yadus in Dwarka. If I tell them, that you're God, don't worry, they're not going to believe me. The Yadavas, the monkeys and Yodhya, the residents of Vaikuntha, they're going to say, okay. And they're going to say, he's going to defeat this serpent anyways. He always comes out. He's always victorious. But I can't tell that to them. And they're dying, and you're going to let them die? Please, brother. Please. How can you let them die? So he's appealing to Krishna in that way. And Krishna, of course, doesn't like to see his devotees suffer. But one thing interesting that Jiva Goswami, in his commentary on this particular pastime, he said that one of the reasons why Krishna stayed wrapped in the coils of the Kaliya serpent for as long as he did, he wanted to show everybody why he was going to defeat him and why he was a person who needed to be defeated. He wanted to show everybody his bad character. So by staying inside the coils of Kaliya for some time, he was trying to show everybody Kaliya's bad character. So everybody could just see the bad character of this serpent. And then, of course, he came out to show how he could defeat them. And when he came out, in a very playful way, he began engaging with the Kaliya serpent, dancing on his hoods, defeating him, causing him so much pain, bringing relief to Mother Jasoda, Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd boys. They came back to life, seeing that Krishna was becoming victorious. Why? Because he didn't want to see them suffering. Their pain, their suffering was because of him. And he was thinking, how can I let them suffer? They're suffering only because of me. I can't let them suffer like that. And not only that, then as described later in Brhad Bhagavatamrita, then what happened was that Krishna took all the gopis and he brought them all on the heads of the Kaliya serpent, and he began dancing on the heads of the Kaliya serpent, and he invited all the gopis for Rasa Leela. And he began dancing with all the gopis on all the heads of Kaliya. And then he took the garments of the Nagapatnis And he took the garments of the Nagapatis, they gave him their cloth, and he took their cloth and he used it to tie in the mouth of the Kaliya serpent, to use it like a rein, like the reins of the serpent. And he began riding him, riding him out of the lake with all of the gopis and all Rasa Leela, and of course he satisfied everybody. Everybody was completely, not only was they relieved from their pains, from their suffering, but he brought them unlimited ecstasy. And he doesn't like to see his devotees suffering from separation and from the pain of separation. So because of that, then this was also brought out in the verses, in a verse previously. He says that, Narada Muni says, and although these signs are but external, the Lord can never tolerate seeing such a state in his most beloved devotees. He won't let them suffer. He knows they're experiencing the highest bliss. Someone may say, he knows they're experiencing, let them suffer. But no, he won't. He won't let them go through that. He still tries to relieve them from their suffering, to bring them even increased ecstasy and enjoyment. The devotees never suffer. There is that verse I oftentimes quote of Lord Kapila tells his mother, Devahuti, Madashriya katamrishta shinvanti katayanti cha tapanti vividastapanaitamad gata chetasa. Because my devotees are always filled with thoughts of my activities and pastimes. Their minds are always filled, thinking of these and relishing these pastimes. They don't suffer from miseries. They won't suffer from material miseries because they're always absorbed in these reciprocal relationships of Krishna with his unalloyed devotees in spontaneous devotional service. So they don't suffer from material miseries, although they may feel separation. But never is it material miseries, but because those who are covered and cannot recognize, they see it as suffering. And therefore, sometimes devotees, they try to hide. Even Haridas Thakur, they tried to hide. Devotees, at certain times, they tried to hide. They don't want to expose these feelings of ecstasy. Why? Because, well, explains in the Nectar of Devotion, when, who was it, Patraka was fanning the Lord, he didn't want to experience the ecstasy because it would be a disturbance to his service to the Lord. Shukadeva Goswami didn't want to say the name Radharani, because if he did, he would fall into such ecstasy, and therefore he hid Radharani's name in Srimad Bhagavatam and spoke about her in a hidden way. Why? Because he would go into ecstasy. He wouldn't be able to control himself. And his whole purpose, his whole service, he only had 7 days to speak to Parikshit Maharaj. But if he went into ecstasy, potentially he could go into ecstasy for 6 months. And his whole service to complete the Srimad Bhagavatam recitation to Parikshit Maharaj would have been disrupted. So he controlled by not speaking the name Radharani. It's described that Shukadeva Goswami is he's actually a pet parrot of Srimati Radharani. So therefore, because of his intimate relationship with Srimati Radharani, he definitely wouldn't have been able to control himself by mentioning her name. And therefore, sometimes people say, why is this Radharani's name never mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam? Why? I don't see it. It's there. The devotees can see it. Devotees can see it. But it's hidden from those who are not ready to understand prema bhakti. And we'll read also an example coming up in a future verse that Sanatana Goswami will explain that even Sridhar Maharaj, the commentator of Srimad Bhagavatam, explained one verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam in a way to make it sound like it was just total happiness. We'll read that. It's coming up in the verses. I guess I better read these verses because I'm going to run out of time. I just simply wanted to bring us up to today's verse, which we said was verse 232. And I'll read 232, 233, and 234. And then we'll speak about Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the 12th canto, 5th chapter. Hopefully there'll be sufficient time. Did I read 232 yet? Hare Krishna. I don't remember. No, I don't think I did. Saprema ka bhaktir ativa durlabha svragari boga sulabho bhavascha chinta mani sarvajanarna labhyate labhyeta kachari kadapi hatakam. Devotional service endowed with prema is very rarely achieved. In contrast, the enjoyments of heaven are easy to obtain, and so too is freedom from material existence. People rarely, if ever, find a Chintamani gem. They usually find only glass or sometimes gold. Commentary. Various enjoyments and opportunities for control are available in heaven, on earth, in the subterranean regions, and on the planets of the sages. And for anyone with the requisite karmic credit, these are easily achieved. In contrast, one rarely achieves liberation from the cycle of birth and death. And prema bhakti is much more rare than even liberation. Thus, material success is compared to glass, liberation to gold, and pure devotion to the mystic Chintamani gem. Text 233. Kita chit eva kasmai chit tad ikarta sprihavate tam tadhyad bhagavan bhaktim lokabhaya yadimate. Only once in a while does the Supreme Lord give bhakti, and only to a rare, intelligent person who desires only that, indifferent to the opinions of the world. Now, of course, again, I won't speak too much on this point, but again, we definitely have to understand Narada Muni is speaking to Gopakumar in a particular place, and he's speaking about Krishna. And we already explained the other day that although Krishna rarely gives, and he has his reasons for rarely giving, and we explained all that already, I won't go into it again. But Krishna does come again another time to make it easily accessible. Previously, it was not very accessible, but he came again as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to make it easily accessible. And this is a whole other topic of how Lord Chaitanya made it easily accessible. But when we hear this, we should not in any way feel distressed that if bhakti is so rare, And Krishna gives it so rarely. And what hope do I have for obtaining bhakti? And generally devotees will feel a different type of despair, a different type of lamentation, a different type of pain. They feel a sense of hopelessness, which a devotee never feels. A devotee always never feels hopeless, but we oftentimes say he may feel helpless, but never hopeless. Because he knows that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this age to deliver the most fallen. And should I diminish Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's potencies, who came in this age of Kali to deliver those who are most fallen? My qualification, if I can only remember it from time to time, my qualification is, I have some qualification. Okay, maybe I shouldn't be so proud to think I'm the most fallen. Sometimes people, they want to become the most, and thinking that if I'm the most something, then I'm first to be recognized. So maybe I'm not the most fallen, but I'm certainly very fallen. And I'm up there on the list. So feeling that way, genuinely feeling that way, but always having hope. Always having hope. There's a reason to have hope. And we should understand the reason to have hope is because of the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the mercy of his devotees, who are very munificent and who are always kindly helping us to understand the importance of becoming mercy seekers, fully dependent always on mercy, hankering for mercy, praying for mercy. And although one of the qualifications is the devotee doesn't expect his mercy because he doesn't think he has enough love, and for Krishna he doesn't do enough service for Krishna, but he never gives up. That is always. That's what's distinguished between somebody who knows that I'm fallen, I have no qualification, but he never gives up. And because he never gives up, Krishna recognizes that. We emphasize that point again and again in the worship of the deity, which was again the previous topics about worship of the deity. What is it that a devotee, even though he may be on the lowest platform of devotional service, even though he still sees the deity as stone or brass or wood, even though he doesn't give proper respect to Vaishnavas, even though he doesn't properly respect other living entities, and even though the Lord is not so much inclined to accept their worship or accept their offerings because they offend others, and even all of those disqualifications. But if a devotee doesn't give up worship and continues to steadily worship, he will get the mercy of Vaishnavas, who will overlook their offenses, and who will just see, they're worshiping the Lord. And they are always worshiping the Lord. Even though they may not have sufficient qualification, they'll be merciful to them. And the Lord will also be merciful to them. The Lord will someday, out of his kindness, accept an offering they make, because why? They don't give up. They remain steady in service. Why? Because the devotee keeps hope. What alternative? Is there an alternative? If we think there's an alternative, then we become like the foolish people we just spoke about yesterday. The foolish people who think, yes, maybe I should hear about liberation, where I can always be happy. Or maybe I can hear about karmic kanda activities. Maybe I could take a little side trip to the heavenly planets, and I need a little pleasure. Why all this pain for so long? Well, maybe some pleasure might do me some good. Or of course, we may think sense gratification. And yet, that is also addressed in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. What does Krishna say about the devotees who have awakened faith to go on hearing Krishna's glories? Having awakened faith to hear the narrations of my glories, knowing that all sense gratification leads to suffering, still being unable to give up sense gratification, knowing that it will bring suffering. My devotee with faith, he continues with happiness to worship me, because he knows that even though sense gratification leads to suffering and I can't give it up, he will sincerely repent for those activities. And therefore, he won't give up hearing about Krishna. He has hope. I have hope that if I go on hearing about Krishna, Krishna will take notice. Go on serving the deity, go on hearing, whatever way of the 9 processes of devotional service. Devotee should never feel hopeless. And he always feels helplessly dependent on mercy. This is his qualification. So we should not become discouraged when we hear, only once in a while does the Supreme Lord give bhakti, and only to a rare, intelligent person who desires only that, indifferent to the opinions of the world. Commentary. Because a candidate for prema bhakti has lost all concern for what worldly people think of him, they reciprocate by treating him with contempt. I'm going to go to the next verse because it has a somewhat longer commentary and it will address some of these other points. And I want to read also Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. This is text 234. Shakyam natad bhava vishesha tattvam nirvaktam asmabhir ato na yogyam bhakti pravityartha parai prabho sach chastraya ivargeshu viruddha vatsyat. We are not able to describe completely this special ecstatic state, nor is it proper for us to do so. And even if the most perfect of scriptures, those dedicated to promoting devotional service, were to describe it in detail, the effect on ignorant people would be contrary. Commentary. Gopakumar wants to learn more from Narada about the special kind of ecstasy that comes from mature love of God. But here, Narada asserts that he is unqualified to explain it. Prema bhakti is indeed beyond the reach of anyone's mind and words. Only devotees who have directly perceived it can understand it. Before a general audience, then, it is inappropriate to say very much about even the external symptoms of prema. Thus, Srimad Bhagavatam and other bhakti shastras avoid revealing too much. The devotional scriptures anticipate that after reading that prema is like the fire of universal annihilation, multiplied millions of times, people will be afraid to cultivate prema bhakti. Try to swallow that one. The fire of universal devastation multiplied millions of times. That in itself is a description which is beyond comprehension. It's just a slight allusion, not illusion, allusion to what prema bhakti is. But how can, and that's why Lord Chaitanya said, I don't have prema. If I had prema, then I wouldn't be in this body. Because it's impossible to have prema and to actually live in a body. So Lord Chaitanya said of himself, I don't have prema. If I did, I would not be able to stay in this body. So that's what's experienced. And of course, this description is there in many places of, especially the gopis' separation when Krishna is being taken by Akrura to Mathura. What they feel, the pain of separation, where they throw their bodies before the chariot wheels of Akrura. And they're feeling so much anguish, the fire. It's there of devastation in their hearts. So the devotional scriptures anticipate, after reading that prema is like the fire of universal annihilation, multiplied billions of times, people will be afraid to cultivate prema bhakti. Srila Sridhar Swami, in his comments on Srimad Bhagavatam, encourages neophyte readers by portraying the symptoms of prema bhakti described therein as signs of happiness, not unhappiness. For example, one verse in the 11th canto, 11.240, says about the devotee who has achieved prema. Evam vratasva priya nama kirtya jatanurago duta chitta uchai hasatyato rodati rauti gayati unmada van nrityati lokabhaya. By chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee is fixed in his vow as an eternal servant of the Lord, and he gradually becomes very much attached to a particular name and form of the Lord. As his heart melts with ecstatic love, he laughs very loudly, or cries or shouts. Sometimes he sings and dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to public opinion. This is the translation of the verse. But Srila Sridhar Swami tactfully explains that, quote, he laughs very loudly or cries or shouts means that the devotee jokingly rebukes his Lord. You have been neglecting me all this time. So that's as far as he takes it in his commentary. He just describes it as great happiness. Great happiness. But there's a deeper meaning which is revealed by those who understand the deeper meaning. Then in the end, we read the end of this commentary. When the supreme ecstasy of prema in separation appears outwardly like supreme distress, there is nothing wrong with this except that persons lacking spiritual knowledge will misunderstand devotional service to be a miserable experience and will have nothing to do with it. They will turn instead to impersonal gyan to achieve liberation, or to materialistic karma to fulfill their desires for happiness. Rather than listen to the perfect authorities on bhakti, they will hear from ordinary, ignorant men. I wanted to read, because I'm going to run out of time very soon. I have about maybe 7 to 10 minutes before I have to end. I wanted to read this commentary of how Shukadeva Goswami is hiding the jewel of bhakti. So this is an explanation of why Shukadeva Goswami, in his last instructions to Parikshit Maharaj, he was doing it for two reasons. He was hiding bhakti, making those who could recognize it, they would recognize it. And those who were unqualified, he would make them think that bhakti mixed with jnana gives the highest liberation. And then he explains why he did it. The other reason was he wanted to test Maharaj Parikshit, because he wanted everyone to see how Maharaj Parikshit understood the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, which obviously the whole Brhad Bhagavatamrita is Maharaj Parikshit's understanding of the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. He's given Sri Goloka Mahatmya, and he's described the very, very essence, the highest ecstasies, within the amount of time he had available to Uttara. So obviously, he understood. So that was Shukadeva Goswami's test, and he wanted to show everyone that he caught the essence, and he wouldn't be in any way distracted by this chapter, the 5th chapter, which is his final instructions, which are Jnana Yoga. I'll read his commentary. Having completed the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva considered the matter within himself. It is improper that I have opened my heart and disclosed the great jewel among secrets and made it visible to all people. The Lord said in Bhagavad Gita 9.2 that bhakti is the king of knowledge and also the king of secrets, Raja Guhyam. In this scripture, I have explicitly revealed out of great mercy to Parikshit the most secret subject, Sarva Guhyatamam. I have shown, both through negative and positive statements, that bhakti awards all results. However, the Lord prefers some matters to remain secret. And then he quotes a verse from the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, where the Lord specifically instructs Uddhava how he likes when certain topics are kept secret. This is the Lord speaking. The Vedas, divided into 3 divisions, ultimately reveal the living entity as pure spirit soul. The Vedic seers and mantras, however, deal in esoteric terms, and I also am pleased by such confidential descriptions. So this is his own statement. Esoteric. Not easy to be, it's hidden, not easy to be seen. And then he thinks, since I have revealed the Lord's greatest secret, I have become not so dear to him. What should I do? I've already finished speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. Let that be. Now at the Bhagavatam's conclusion, I will try to hide the great secret of bhakti. Someone may impetuously show off a great secret jewel to all people, and then reconsidering, again, hide it in a box or put it in his vault. Right? Like sometimes a person might show something very valuable, then he may think, what have I done? So then he decides, if too many people find out about it, it could end up in the wrong hands. So then he hides it, and he locks it up in the safe. So he's saying the same thing. I've revealed everything to Maharaj Parikshit. So he says, he then shows off another less valuable jewel and praises it as more valuable to distract people from his secret. Thus I will now teach Gyan to King Parikshit, so that people will think Shukadeva is teaching Parikshit Gyan. By the influence of the Lord's Maya, they will think that Gyan is ultimate and Bhakti only a means to attain Gyan. When I do this, I will be able to test the development of Bhakti in my disciple Parikshit. The wise should know that this test is simply to announce to the world the steadiness of Parikshit's Bhakti. Ignorant people will explain that liberation is the only result of both Bhakti and Gyan. But one should understand that this is not my intention. I already said that. Previously he said that compared to liberation, Bhakti is much greater attainment. Muktim dadati karhichit smana bhakti yogam. The Lord gives liberation, but not bhava bhakti to those who worship him. One should not fear that Parikshit will attain impersonal liberation by teaching him Gyan. Sutta, my disciple, has understood my intentions and will later express them. Parikshit, the great devotee with pure intelligence, attained liberation in the form of the feet of the Lord, who possesses a flag marked with Garuda through knowledge spoken by Shukadeva. This was Sutta Goswami's statement. He's also not in any way indicated that liberation was that destination which was achieved by Parikshit Maharaj. He made it clear in his recitation to the sages of Naimisharanya that Parikshit Maharaj found complete shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. Finally, I will produce a work including Jnana teachings, which will do for me what the Mohini avatar did for the demons. Cheat them of the nectar of prema. While teaching Gyan, I will utter words first with one meaning, and then indicate another meaning smeared with bhakti ras to please the devotees. Actually, this is Sanskrit's called parokshavad. Parokshavad means to say something which may appear in one way, but it's hiding the real. There's a hidden meaning. And the devotees who understand the nature of real love, who understand the nature of bhakti, they'll understand the real meaning. They won't be bewildered of the statements made. They won't think it to be liberation. They'll know this is Krishna's lotus feet. I'll give one this is practically the end. I'll give one very, very brief example. In this way, I will convert all the elements of Gyan unfavorable for bhakti into processes favorable for devotion. Thinking in this way, Shukadeva spoke Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 5. One of the verses which he mentioned, and I'll end with this, just a short verse, that he says that he's telling how Takshaka, sent by the curse of the Brahmin, will burn up your true self. And you should consider that I'm none different from the absolute truth. The supreme destination is none different from me. Resign yourself to the Supreme Soul, who is free from all material misidentifications. And because you'll be so much absorbed, you will not even notice this snake bird Takshaka when he approaches with his poison-filled fangs and bites your foot. Nor will you see your dying body or the material world around you, because you will have realized yourself to be separate from them. In other words, you will know yourself to be non-different than Brahman. So that is what he's saying. So then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, he notes the overt meanings of meaning of the texts, but then he ascribes a deeply devotional meaning to Shukadeva's words. You will not see Takshaka biting while pressing his lips and noisily tasting the edge of his lips with his tongues as he relishes his fire mixed with poison. You will not see your body bitten by that snake or the universe different from yourself. However, the other meaning is you will not see all this because you will be fainting with the bliss of direct contact with the lotus feet of Krishna. So that is the hidden meaning. The hidden meaning. But those who are not ready, not qualified, who still think that liberation is topmost, they'll hear something else. Of course, in due course of time, if they hear from appropriate sources, even such persons who aspire for liberation can give it up. And that point is made throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. It's made throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. But they need the mercy of a Vaishnava to someday give it up. Okay, I'll stop here. I've finished this section of these verses of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which describe the symptoms and hidden nature of prema bhakti and the reasons why it is hidden. And then, when we begin our Brihad Bhagavatamrita classes, resume them again. I haven't fixed a date, but for those who have received either email or messages through WhatsApp or messages through Viber, one of those three ways, you will receive a notification of when the Brihad Bhagavatamrita classes will resume, the times when they will resume, and the days they will be resumed to the audiences, whether it's Russian-speaking audience on one day and English-speaking audience on another day. And it will also be posted on the website. But this is the end of our series of talks from Brihad Bhagavatamrita at the Bhaktisangama Festival. And thank you all very much for taking part in hearing these wonderful narrations given by Srila Sanatana Goswami for our own purification and our enlightenment. And we hope in some way it was beneficial to the hearers to hear as we opened up this Brihad Bhagavatamrita. I want to end with the same quote. And the same quote is from Srila Prabhupada, which is Prabhupada states, Sri Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, the teacher of the science of devotional service, wrote several books, of which the Brihad Bhagavatamrita is very famous. Anyone who wants to know about the subject matter of devotees, devotional service, and Krishna must read this book. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.